Alright, so I think we're going to get started for now. Alright, so we're Team 1311, Keller Robotics. We're an FRC team based around Kennesaw, Georgia. Today we're going to be talking about a model that we have for integrating FIRST into 21st century STEM education. So we're going to be talking about how to implement it in other states, the progress that we've made, what it is, what exactly it entails, examples, things like that. And yeah, I'm David, and I'm a senior.
I'm Danielle, and I'm a sophomore.
I'm Mackenzie, and I'm a sophomore.
I'm Marceline, and I'm a junior.
I'm Bob, and I'm a freshman.
I'm Ed, and Wayne, can you please close the doors?
Okay, so first we're going to start talking about what lobbying is versus advocacy. And then we're going to get into what the problem is we're actually trying to solve. So from there, we're going to go through common issues from the side of a student's perspective and political. And then we'll start talking about the model and our solution towards this problem. And talk about how we got there and how hopefully your team can get there. And then also how to get over the challenges that you may face when implementing this.
Can everyone hear? You can move the microphone closer.
All right.
Just a couple of things before we get started. We're not really looking for this to be a lecture. We don't want to be talking at you. We want to be talking with you. So feel free at any time that we're talking. If you have a question or you need to know something, don't hesitate to raise your hand, and we can deal with it then and there. We want to make this as informal as we possibly can and make sure that we're addressing any concern that you have. Thank you.
Well, lobbying is when you influence a specific legislation or communicate with a member or employee of a legislative body, a government official, you're encouraging others to lobby, or you're asking for votes from your legislator.
So what is advocacy? Advocacy goes beyond lobbying. Instead of just talking with legislation, you're really working with them to educate them on your problems. And this includes making more networks and connections with other people. Per se, if you could go up to a politician and ask them for other people to contact, that would include advocacy. The difference between lobbying and advocacy, they're not the same thing. Lobbying, as we were talking about, includes just trying to influence legislation, asking for votes, and it has some nonprofit legal restrictions. For example, like the non-school teams, mentors can't really go off and do that, but students and parents can talk to them about lobbying.
Yeah, basically, we're just trying to get a disclaimer out of the way here. A couple of us are members of a nonprofit 501c3, if that's what's running your school organization. It's good to go advocate, talk to legislatures. You cannot ask them for a vote, or if you do, it's under very narrow circumstances. I just want to keep you out of the orange jumpsuits. But if you do a good job explaining to your legislator what this is about, and you know, they can make their own decisions. And if you've done your job selling your program, they'll know what you believe. Also, they can ask you, if they ask you to come in and present to them, that's not considered lobbying either. That's advice seeking, and that's completely legal right there too. But everyone has a right to vote and ask their legislator to do what to vote for a piece of legislation as a private citizen. So that's the legal stuff out of the way. Let's get to the fun part.
Alright, so the focus of why the students should advocate. Adults can go up to another adult all they want. Everybody has their own opinion, but the students are the people that are closest to the problem. They're the ones that are seeing what's going on. They know first. They know the benefits of the program, and they can talk to the people about why it needs to be put into place. Students are hard to turn down for this reason. They're younger. They know what they're talking about. The previous generation needs that connection to what's actually happening now. And really that makes that bridge. And so that's really what we're trying to promote here, is that as individual teams, that the students would be the ones talking to the actual leaders. And so this is a graphic We actually got this from first, approximately 90%, about 91.8% of American students do not have the opportunity to participate first. And so that's what we're trying to solve, in that going to your political leaders, you can get funding, or you can find connections to other educational partners, things like that, to where who you need to talk to get things actually moving and make progress in your area.
So common issues like teams may face. One of the things we found when we start teams is that the mentor support, if you have that mentor support, your team's pretty much going to be really start off well right off the bat. But finding that mentor support, with either it's in a school or in a community-based team, that's the main thing you really want. So finding these teachers and mentors and the training for these. Some mentors come into the program and have no idea what how to mentor a team or anything like that. Also the informal learning. Kids learn by failure. You know, you're going to get more out of a time where you realize, oh, this doesn't work this way, but it will the other way. Also, there's a lack of resources. A lot of teams don't have the availability of a workspace or tools or any of that, and so some schools may provide some tools and stuff like that, but really there's a big lack for that there.
I have something to add, actually. Actually, in my own personal experience, I go to North Cobb, and in my school there's a lot of kids who are interested in robotics, but the thing is we don't have the tools, we don't have the space, we don't have the teachers to help us really form a team and get it going, and that's just a common problem we're trying to fix.
All right, so from the politician's side, who you're actually going to talk to, what we're trying to show is that you need to be able to address what's in it for them. What are they looking for? How do you solve their problems? So problems that we've seen that our legislatures are facing is they're always looking out for workforce development, something that can benefit the workers in the area, create new jobs, better the economy. Those are some really good points to touch on about how these students are the future of the next generation, how they grew up and they're filling those jobs. They're looking for new jobs, and they can design new ways to connect the students that are growing up and going out of the universities to be able to go into the workforce and better their area. Because that's what legislators are looking for, is their individual area. Even congressmen, they're not necessarily looking out for what's in the better for the whole country, but just who they represent. So attacking in their specific area, who you can talk to, great. All right, so this is basically addressing that political issues go much further than one level. There's multiple groups that need to be addressed in state areas, regionals, districts, individuals, schools. The educational administration goes across a very wide spectrum, and it's different for every state. So in Georgia, there's superintendents in each county and all those things. The state legislature has certain structures. So not just talking to the governor, you need to be talking to everyone. This is a structure of an example of the educational system. So there's the state level across in the blue at the top, and there's a school district level in the green, and then there's also the individual schools level and their principals, staff, and so on.
A few of the missing links that need to be filled in this area are informal education, which is stuff like FIRST, which are programs like FIRST, which really promote hands-on activities and stuff like that. Business partnerships, universities and technical colleges, the relationship between the education system and the technical colleges. Teacher education, educating teachers on how to actually promote STEM and these programs, and economic development.
So from all of our partners and all the people we have behind us here, we created a 21st century education model. So before we go into what our model is and what's part of that, we're going to kind of talk about how we got there. So the way we establish our public value, we establish our partnerships within our community, doing outreach events, press, media coverage, all that. We make that public value is essential, because once you have that, the support from your industries and your community, from your political leaders, they're going to come to you. So then once you have those support, once you have those sponsors, those strategic partnerships, you can form infrastructure. That includes, the workspaces, the tools. They can help you provide that. So.
Make sure all your mic's closed, sir.
Closer? Okay. So the first thing we work on is creating public value. With this includes outreach to businesses, nonprofits, different areas of people who would be interested, and political leaders, educational administrators, and state and local school boards, and communication through the press, the TV, your media coverage, your social media, things like that.
Because remember, outreach isn't just going to elementary schools or hosting events. It's also going to your community of business leaders and presenting them what First is about and stuff like that.
And I'll just jump in here for a second. So when you do outreach, think about why you're doing it and what you're trying to accomplish. Every audience you go to, doing outreach in front of a third grader is different than, say, a U.S. senator. You're trying to pique their interest about something, what's in it for them. So your outreach has to be managed and targeted to that audience and your goal.
I'm gonna just jump in here for a second, because in my former life, I was a Defense Department auditor. And
You
it's
hold it
hard-
closer. Is your mic on?
It is. Can you hear me now? Yes. So, in any case, as part of that, I was actually detailed to the U.S. Senate, the Senate Committee for Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs. And as part of my role there, I was a subject matter expert for the ranking member on the committee, which happened to be Senator Collins out of Maine at the time. But I've sat in on both sides of this where hundreds, and I mean hundreds of meetings with people that were either lobbying or advocating for something, really serving as part of Senator Collins' staff. And I can tell you that this what's in it for me is a huge issue. If you want to get your congressman's attention, you want to get your senator's attention, you want to get the governor's attention, you have to be able to tell them what's in it for them, how it fits with their goals and their programs, and how it's going to benefit their state, or you're not going to get that support. So I can't really emphasize enough that, what we call WIPA, but that what's in it for me is really the most important thing you can do as part of advocacy. It's real easy for a senator or a governor to say, oh, yes, I agree with you, I support you completely. Unfortunately, that doesn't get you any action necessarily. Unless you pique their interest and you're part of their program, you're not going to get them to actually take action and move forward for the benefit of what you're trying to accomplish.
Okay, so like we were saying earlier, outreach helps you get these partnerships and stuff like that. So you can have partnerships with corporate, nonprofits, universities, government, school systems, getting these partnerships. If you want to do something like we're doing, like this 21st century education model, we need the partnerships with the school boards. We need it with the government. The universities are a crucial part. So definitely getting out into your community and definitely establishing these bonds between you and these different partners.
Yeah, and it's really just getting these groups together to work towards a common goal. Since there's so many other areas you have to focus on, just really pulling them together is what you're going to work on.
All right, and so everybody wants the workspaces, everybody wants the tools. That's really one of the most important end goals is what's going to come out of these partnerships, what's going to come out of these relationships. So after you've established the purpose for it and established what's in it for them, there's funding out there. There are ways to accomplish what you're trying to do. And as long as you establish those relationships, you can get the workspaces, you can find tools, sponsorships, grants, all kinds of things, as long as you reach out to the right people the right way. All right, so we of course have to analyze this similar to the way of this year's game for FRC. Yes, there are 9 bullets, and 9 offenses and 8 bullets I would say that the low bar is the equivalent of the standards that you have to go underneath and surpass and go into the courtyard and overcome. I don't know, whatever. So basically, these are just some of the defenses that we've identified for Georgia specifically, and we assume a lot in the United States. And correct me if I'm wrong, or if you have any that you'd like to add. But for the teachers that are there, many of them are overworked. They have their own jobs that they need to accomplish, and then people are trying to come to them saying, hey, give us more time. There's no money in it for you, but we really would like you to help out, please. And then classes, I mean, there are engineering classes out there. They're not in every school. Many people do not have the opportunity, it won't fit in their schedule, things like that. Facilities, workspaces, places to work in informal learning, so not just a classroom, but if you need resources from the school or any kind of thing like that. Competition systems, a place to compete. A system of first, a place to hold it in your area instead of having to drive too far or get it out to your community. Support systems for creating those systems. Corporate foundation partnerships, things that we talked about before. Finding the coaches and mentors if you're not a school-based, if you're a homeschool team, if you're from other communities that don't have teachers that are willing to help. Lack of recognition of value of informal learning. So that's back to the public value. The area may not know anything about FIRST. They have no idea what the program is or if there's any robotics at all. If people hear robots, they think autobots. What are they going to get out of that program is what they need to know. All right, and this is really starting to get into our specific model and what it is and what we're saying that could be implemented in other states. So these are the main three areas of our model. So the infrastructure that we talked about, preparing new teachers and hiring them, and then integrating FIRST into the classroom. All right, so universities and colleges. Georgia, for this example, the Peachtree district is new this year, and all of our district competitions were supported by universities. And people were jumping all over this. Universities love to compete with each other. For example, Kennesaw State University, UGA, Mercer, a lot of people that are focused on education as part of their colleges, they all want to be the best of the best. If you leverage those competitions, if you establish a partnership with one university and actions are being made, students are coming for those programs, and if you go over to the other university, hey, what are you guys doing? Like, then they're going to jump to those associations, work with them too, manage those competitions between each university. And these support centers that we're proposing would be housed at those universities or equivalent regional entity. So, for example, in Georgia, there's a Dalton school, Albany, throughout the whole state. We spread it out through the whole state to where each team and wherever they are located can go to a university, work on the robot, learn skills, be trained about how to use these machines that no one gets to touch until college or beyond. And then high school STEM gyms. This is something we're proposing to be located at individual high schools of a workspace, classrooms, labs, for students to work out of and be able to learn and work on their first robotics teams or other programs that would be housed at the individual school. So just like you'd have your gymnasium for athletic program, you'd have the same thing for STEM, so STEM gym. And so these are the who's to talk to. So the universities, obviously, and then also the school districts. Universities for most of these, and then state legislature is what we're talking about for the funding for these STEM gyms. So talking to them about how we already said, addressing what's in it for them, what are the benefits, and then allocating funds to them from grants and such.
Okay, so teacher preparation and hiring. We've proposed the engineering education degrees. Now, these degrees take the best out of, it takes the basic classes from an engineer, and it combines them with the teaching skills and the teaching degree. So that way, these teachers, right now in high schools, you either have a teacher who's never really taught engineering before and is put into the classroom, or an engineer who's put into the classroom and has no experience with teaching. And this is definitely going to help these students who are in these classes get the most out of the program, because they're going to be able to learn from an engineer who's taken the classes, who's had the basic training on that, and they're going to learn informal learning. You know, they're going to get to learn within groups, stuff like that. So these degree programs are definitely going to help these students get the most out of the program. Hiring these STEM teachers. Right now, there's few STEM teachers in the classroom, there are few classes for it, especially in Georgia. We actually have, specifically in Georgia, there's about 25 classes, and the most any school offers is 16 of these classes, and most only offer 1 or 2. So these classes, there's students here willing to take these classes, but there's not the infrastructure, there's no teachers there willing to teach them. So definitely hiring these STEM teachers into the classroom so the students can have that opportunity. And also the mentoring incentives, like David was talking about earlier, these teachers have already spent their days working. They're tired. They need something to incentivize them coming and mentoring the team and making sure that they have something that's going to make them want to mentor as well. So again, on the side is who you want to contact for these certain things. The engineering education degrees, obviously the university side, so we can actually propose those degrees. The teachers, the districts, the state legislation, that's the people who are going to fund it. So again, with the funding, with the mentoring incentives.
And not only incentives to mentor, but also the mentors that I see in the room that are already doing that. They would also be funded just to keep them with the program and reward them for what they're working on.
So the final step is the classroom integration. This is where we're offering the engineering courses in every school, the ones that Daniel was just talking about, how some schools only really offer 1 or 2. It will also align FLL, FTC, and FRC better with the education progress. Because what we've seen is a lot of teams will do FLL, and then they might, since FTC overlaps with high school, they might jump straight to FRC. And we believe FTC is really beneficial for that gap, so we probably work to align FLL with the elementary, aligning FTC with middle school, and then FRC with high school. And it just really incorporates FIRST throughout the STEM education curriculum through all grades.
We'd like to also incorporate the values of FIRST into the districts and into the curriculum and into those different places. So all those things all those words you guys all know, like cooperation and courageous professionalism, stuff like that. We really want to incorporate that into the curriculum as well.
Again, with the aligning the FL, FTC, and FRC programs, when you're in elementary school, you pretty much know what middle school you're going to go to. You pretty much know what high school you're going to go to. To align these FL, FTC, and FRC teams so that when you graduate FLL, there's somewhere where you can go. There's a team in your area that you can go to, and you know that you'll be able to graduate and go there. So that's definitely a big thing for aligning the FLL, FTC, and FRC.
Everybody always asks, where's the money at? So federal funding is really where the national role comes into, the federal government. There are grants out there that, if you're familiar with No Child Left Behind, was just replaced with the ESSA, which is the Every Student Succeeds Act. There is a funding in that actual act for informal learning competitions. So, for example, FIRST, the money is there. They need the students there to advocate to the individual state governments to allocate those funds from those acts to this program. So it's back to the partnerships and saying what's in it for them. The money is there. And there's also existing grants, such as the National Science Foundation, that can be applied to by universities. So that's back to the university partnerships. They can apply for those grants to use in their area, to use for those regional manufacturing support centers, or anything like that. And also the NASA grants, and I'm sure many teams in here probably are funded by NASA. They're already there providing funds for teams, and there are new opportunities every day. This is our contact info. We have our website, as well as Mr. Ed over there and his email over there. And I think this is time for questions, unless there's somebody adding in. All right, I think this is about question time.
It will be posted on the FIRST website for the conference presentation and catalog that they have going back about a million years.
I also have a copy of it right here, so if you guys want to stay after and copy it over, I can email it to you whenever you need.
Yeah, this is not a giant attendance here. Everybody's at lunch. We have I counted about a dozen people that I don't recognize. So let's stump the chumps. Ask them some questions. And repeat, when they ask the question, please restate it to the audience.
Have you guys thought about targeting private schools differently than public schools?
So the question was addressing private schools differently than you would with public schools. It would be similar to, I guess, the way high schoolers would be, or high school homeschoolers would be approached. That the public system doesn't have the structure there. Private systems would be different. I'm not sure what the funding for that.
Honestly, I guess we haven't spent that much time on that because the public sector is such a huge nut to crack. And, I can tell you that the support center at Kennesaw State University has supported public schools, community teams, and homeschools this year. 21 teams just this year alone. So at the university level, I don't see any issue. As far as ESSA, I think it's Section 4, paragraph A or something like that, funding the states, that would benefit your private school teams. Obviously, producing teachers out of the university system would be a benefit to your school because you'd actually have a pool of teachers to hire from. The STEM gym concept, since it's a private school, it would have to be funded by the school, not the state legislature. But, there's a huge amount of benefit to a private school here that's just sort of inherited.
Yeah, the model is meant to be adaptive, so whatever your situation is, it can be blended. Or if your state is already excelling in one of those regions, then skip to the next thing or go on to another thing. So that's what it's all about.
Question?
Do you have any effective models for remote distance education, remote collaboration? We come from a large state, so it's very difficult for us sometimes to get collaboration from other.
Not really. This model here is more architectural, fixing some very fundamental issues. So the issues that everyone runs into starting running a first team is the same thing school superintendents run into. They can't have they don't have the teachers, they don't have an infrastructure, they don't have the classes. It's all the same thing. The question was had to do with distance learning.
So how far are you guys, as you mentioned some of the stuff that I think you did, but how far do you consider yourselves along in implementing this?
Most of the groundwork has already been laid. The degree programs have already been submitted for proposal for KSU and are scheduled to be implemented later 2017. So the progress has already been made for there. The partnerships are there for universities in our area. Of course, we're always expanding to new universities. Leaders, we've had visits from congressmen, senators. We've been working with superintendents in each district, the state superintendent, educational advisors to the governor. So we're working with everyone, so the partnerships are there. It's just the fruit to come out of that is still in progress.
I've got the handout here I'd like to have distributed to all of the, hey, Glenn, can you run up here really quick? Or David, never mind, just pass those out.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
How is a STEM gym different than shops or electronic classrooms that are already exist in schools?
For example, how is the STEM gym different from a shop? Great question. If you look at the hall, the groundbreaking piece of work, the Harvard Pathways of Prosperity report, they lament a trend that happened in the United States in the past 30 years where the mini schools, and for example, this county, the district that we're from, we're the 25th largest district, every school that has been built since I moved there, and that's 25 years ago, has been built with no shop classes, nothing. I mean, there's zero infrastructure. I mean, literally, there's nowhere to put a screwdriver. And that's been part of a national trend. So if you go into a place where there's older high schools, they may have shop classes that they just sort of inherited, like in the county. So, and again, to the Harvard report, there's a call to action to re-implement, to use your terminology, shop class, but we want to go past shop class. We want to go to a whole new 21st century education model. So instead of thinking, you had your shop tools back when we grew up, you'd really like to have a lab with advanced manufacturing, CNC machines, water jet. I want to call out somebody here sitting in the back of the room. Brian Cooksey is with the largest manufacturing company in the state of Georgia. 22,000 employees, is that right, Brian? About 22,000 employees. Manufacturing is a big thing to them. We have industries like Kia. We have, we're the 5th largest
producer of aerospace. So yes, kids do need to learn how to use screwdrivers and cut wood and everything else, but kids would really love the opportunity to design an FRC robot after school and maybe during class, put it on a CNC machine. So we can take care of a lot of problems in a hurry if we put up a modern facility that has the classrooms and the modern manufacturing labs and a place to put the full-size field and maybe some stands that could hold a couple hundred people and do a lot of stuff. If you look at a high school gym is busy to 10 o'clock at night every night, right? But the reason it was funded was to support PE classes. That's how the dollars got there. So you put the dollars in to get those classes back into school, and then use the building the rest of the days to support informal education. Studies have proven that students get their STEM identity from informal learning, the things that happen after 3:30. Well, let's support the students and let them get their STEM identity. And we can support the classroom curriculum and everything else. So it just defines the work that we need to get done. When you kind of look at it, you kind of wonder, how come we're not doing this already? It just makes so much sense. But nobody's really sort of plotted the path. And that's sort of the stunning thing to me. We sort of plotted all this data out. It looks so simple now once we've kind of got it figured out. I want to ask a question. How come this problem's never been fixed before? And let's go back and talk about that for a minute. Everybody's got that piece of paper that floated around the room here. Let's just pick objective number 1. Teacher production. Why do we not have STEM teachers, engineering education teachers? We're almost at the 59th anniversary of Sputnik. Why have we not solved that problem? In Georgia, over half the money that a university gets does not come from the state. It comes from tuition. And unless there's an army of people beating the doors down with dollars and fists, there's not really a whole lot of incentive for a university to solve that problem. If you want the university to solve it, the legislature has to get in there. It's a bunch of other people, and the manufacturers and the superintendents. Going to the president or to your congressman or your senator doesn't fix the problem. So what I'm getting at, for every major problem, to the game stronghold, every barrier has a set of attributes. And some of the attributes are what's the motivators and what's the funders. You know, how's sort of the money flow in this. And so every barrier has a different issue to solve. So STEM Gyms is driven by superintendents, local sales or local tax sources and state tax sources. University funding model is very different. Third objective on there is classrooms, for example. Again, that's the local school district and state legislature. I'll shut up for a minute.
I got a question for you. I'm a coach of a Georgia team, so this is kind of a local question for y'all. How can other teams get involved? Because obviously this needs to be, if this is going to happen at a state level, this is going to be a big movement across the state. This needs to be a collaboration. So how do y'all see other teams getting involved with y'all in terms of this advocacy in this process?
Yeah, an example of that nationally would be we're working with Team 27 to go to the National Advocacy Conference to train other teams on how to advocate to the leaders. So in the local level, same kind of thing, students could cooperate with us in their advocacy efforts. We could train how to talk to your congressman, or your senator, or your governor, your superintendent, your high school principal, anything like that. So we'd be willing to help out a team in addressing what issues they may need to face, or what issues we faced in our area, where we can help out whatever you need to ask for questions, or if you wanted to come with us.
And just to follow up on the Georgia question, the compasses are lining up pretty fast here. I'm hoping we can get some specific implementable measures kind of lined up, either at, maybe at state and local levels. I know there's some local conversations going on, there's some state conversations going on, and once people kind of start figuring out what those proposals are going to look like, you know, we can have this call to action across the state, march, you got pitchfork and march on Capitol or whatever, the educational pitchforks. Somebody wants to throw a comment in here, I know. Come on, we can do it, come on.
So you are working with 27 with Rush?
Yes.
Other questions I
I need to go downstairs and make hotel reservations on that. Anyone? Yes.
So for all the students, how did you guys get so passionate and interested in this? Because I think for all of our teams, getting the students behind it, and however you got involved with FIRST. You said your school doesn't have much, right? So, example there, like what made you jump on board with it?
Well, what really got me in, I was on the follow team with Danielle through Girl Scouts, and I got into high school and I found out there was this Cal Robotics FRC team that I wanted to join. Yeah, just because my school doesn't have a team, it was hard to find one, and
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to that K-12 alignment. You'll have schools that have an FLL program, and they go off the cliff in 6th grade or 5th grade when they come out, and there's nothing. They die.
Yeah.
So again, going to what motivates politicians, they're screaming for STEM workforce, but the issue is we can give them examples. We've got somebody fired up, and we let them fall.
For me, like Mackenzie was saying, I did FLL through Girl Scouts. The school infrastructure was never really there for me, especially at my high school level. Like again, my high school, I go to Kennesaw Mountain High School, and they don't have a robotics program either through FIRST. They have a robotics program, and it's one of those things where it's just saying, oh, we do robotics. So a lot of the kids, they don't realize this opportunity is here. And for me, being able to experience all this and get all the different skills from it, and seeing that other kids aren't, like to me, that's a really big issue, and I've been really passionate about solving that.
I also started in FLL, and I started on an elementary FLL team, and the teacher that was behind that team did not know anything about any of the engineering or any of the build stuff. She just had an extreme passion for getting people into science and math. So once I had finished 5th grade and gone on to middle school, it was very disappointing to see that there wasn't that structure needed. So when I finally got to the high school program and was able to join Cal Robotics, it really reignited my passion for a lot of these different things, including more than robots and getting other people into it as well.
And actually, all of us up here are from different schools, and she's homeschooled actually. So we all came from schools that didn't have a team, and then we found Cal Robotics through connections or by chance or outreach. I actually saw them in an outreach event one time. And for me, really, it's been able to have the opportunity to talk to the governor, talk to the people that are in charge of your whole state. It's really cool, and they're willing to let anyone talk to them, especially about little kids from their areas about robotics and the purpose that it can do. So for me, being able to have the opportunity to talk to people that are so high up and high and mighty, you never get to see them on day-to-day conversation. So it's really cool to be able to just talk informally about them, about what you love to do in FIRST Robotics.
Just to clarify, are you guys a high school team or a community team?
I guess we should have started with that. We're a community-based team that grew out of an individual high school. We split off from our high school and formed a 501c3 nonprofit organization. And we are a group of about 5 high schools and homeschoolers also.
So where do you guys meet? Have you found a place in the community, and how did you go about that? How did you find a place, and where do you get the funds to support yourselves?
From the public value, we have a partnership with Shaheen Company, which in our area is a very large land developer for industrial complexes. So we have a space that's just like any other industrial 9-to-5 job would have for their space to do their job. We have a space right next to them that we can work on our robots, train other teams out of, things like that. So it's a workspace we pay about $1 a year. It's a partnership to make it official. But so we have the area based on the outreach that we've done and the partnerships that we've grown.
So I run a makerspace, and the team that I mentor is a homeschool team, so they build in the makerspace.
Yeah, we were a school-based team for years, and long story made sure we broke off. We got a friendly separation, I'll put it that way. I predict probably within 5 years, we're probably back in part of the school system again. 5 years being the educational system moving at speed of light. We had to survive, but the school system has come around, all the policy people are coming around to this model. Because again, you look at the model, it's pretty simple, just 6 objectives on there. personally, we got to fix this teacher production problem. We've never really done that as a nation. And the solution to it, I think, is pretty simple. First, it's a huge game changer. Historically, they just sort of try to recruit random people to be engineering teachers or try to convert math teachers, or they try to get old engineers that was half retired to come in the classroom. None of those are really productive ways. But you can come to this competition this weekend, there's 30 or 40,000 people running around here. And you said, you'd love to do this the rest of your life and teach it and not become an engineer. And there are lots of people that would love to do that. So that's an option that didn't exist 25 years ago. It exists today, called it first. Number two is we're in the 21st century now. We've got a lot of engineering and technology courses that need to be taught that are not being taught. The biggest reason, well, probably the biggest reason is because they can't find the teachers. So this is very basic. This is like football blocking and tackle, very basic stuff here. And the infrastructure of the place, and we talked about this in STEM gyms. The next three items there is, you know, if you're going to have a STEM gym, you need to have a STEM coach. And there's an economic case that can be made just to hire somebody to be in that building, to run a team, and to run the apprenticeship programs and co-ops, the work-based learning, and the guidance counseling for STEM careers. A football player on a high school team, when they decide what college they want to go to, they don't talk to the guidance counselor. They talk to their coach. And there's a whole bunch of pressures from a lot of different directions with these apprenticeships and co-ops and everything else, and the German-based apprenticeship systems and sort of this stuff. So there's really 2 or 3 job descriptions worth of stuff just in that one position. And you can do that at every high school. And we think that we need about 10 of those super coaches around the state to be put in these regional centers that we need to build around the universities. Support centers around the state, that's the 5th objective, I believe, on that chart, which is for the teacher professional development, the continuing development, continuing support for a whole range of things related to workforce development. And then there's that competition structure. You know, we want kids to get involved in competitions, but to date, nobody in the government has really even thought about supporting it. But in Georgia, we have the world's first district model that's fully hosted by the universities, federal colleges, college and career academies as a network. So that's very unique to the first system. And personally, I'm pretty proud of that. I think there's a lot of traction there. We've created a nice, warm, rivalry, friendly competition across the state to get these universities, college and career academies to really put some steam into this ship.
So, and I don't, first of all, the problem that you may be facing is that engineers might not want to leave the engineering profession because they would make a lot less as a teacher. And I think, because we're from Canada, so you may not be able to address my next question, but we are facing a different kind of problem where there are too many teachers, but you still don't want, the engineers still don't want to leave that profession to come into the teaching profession because there's no jobs.
You have too many teachers in the engineering and technology areas?
No, just too many.
Just too many people going to university to become teachers, and it creates a huge backlog.
Actually, I think nationally you will probably see an overabundance of what's called early elementary. And elementary and early education teachers, that's very popular. If you look at the statistics, full graduation stats from any major public university, college of education, those have huge numbers, and there's actually too many of them. But in other areas, in the STEM areas, there's a tremendous shortfall. And it doesn't really work to recruit that body of students to become those STEM teachers. The best body to recruit that from is from first, I do believe.
And so the reason we're here really is, and like I said, you may not be able to answer this, but we're a third-year team, and we're struggling to get support from our school board. We've made a presentation before I presented myself, but we're really struggling to find traction with the school board and even with the city itself. I've sent emails to the mayor, and he gave me a pat on the back, but really it's hard to gain traction, and it's frustrating because our school board says that they want to move towards 21st century education, and I haven't seen any progression, but yet they're pushing this aside and making as if it didn't exist. And so I'm just trying to find a way to go about this?
You know, it's what we call the PV nut, the public value nut, how we convince them that it's important. We spent years trying, working on that, and it was a big, big struggle, and it became more vital to our constituency, partly because of the work that we've done, but partly because the culture is changing. There's a lot of voices out there speaking all over the place now, and we had to work pretty hard to try to figure out ways to communicate these messages. We did some stuff in our early days that was sort of way off the map. And the day it was considered to be way off the map and was really outside of FIRST and not relevant by people, by students and mentors inside of FIRST. And after a while, they kind of said, okay, I get it now. Because like we built a robot to go and clean trash out of the water, do a couple projects like that, a lot of PR and stuff. People sort of making the connection between, okay, this is kind of important to something we're doing. Very simple analogy. In the United States, we have, well, internationally, there's the Red Cross, right? People give money to it. They kind of intuitively understand why they're giving money to it because it's an empathetic thing that helps people. A lot of laymen do not understand why engineering is important. They just think it's just sort of a hobby, it's a tinkering thing that nobody cares about. And there's no linkage in their mind to healthcare or public safety or security or energy or really all the things that make your life good. And if you can get people to start understanding that, it's important for all those life-sustaining issues and economic development issues. If you create messaging that helps people start connecting those dots, it's like, okay, this is actually important. It's not like many activities that we love as a nation that aren't so health-sustaining, put it that way, put it mildly. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I'm going to add a little bit to what Ed just said. If you look at our model, one of the big factors in that model is pulling all of our partners together. We're not just talking to the school, we're talking to the entire K-12 education department. We're bringing in the universities, we're bringing in industry, we're bringing in political partners. You're going to get pushback from a school board, maybe because they don't have the funding, maybe because they're simply resistant to change. What we try